Hey, what's going on? I'm Keith here at Sports Vibes TV. And in this video, I'm going to be doing an organizational depth chart, just going to show you where I think these players are going to fall once the season actually starts. I'm going to go through each of the 5 positions. And then I'm also going to let you know which players I expect to be sent to the G League or even potentially cut. So let's start and jump over into this nice picture I have of the Knicks home court. All right. And let's get into point guards at first. So you guys might be shocked as to why I'm having Dennis Smith Jr. start over Frank Nitti. Well, I think Dennis Smith Jr. gives us a little bit more offensive firepower. And I think when we start the game, we want to kind of start off strong. And the fact that Dennis Smith Jr. is still at this point a better scorer than Frank Nitti, I think I would like to start the game off in that way, set the tone like that, as opposed to necessarily bringing in Frank Nitti to be a defensive presence to start at the beginning of the game. Not only that, like in a few of my other videos, I said I expect Tibbs to treat everybody fairly, but he's not going to treat everybody the same. And because we're invested in Frank Nitti a little bit more than we are in DSJ, I want Frank Nitti to go in there and try to get his confidence against some of the backups. So if we have Frank Nitti go in there and he's not necessarily playing the best of the best of the best, I think, it'll help build some confidence for him. And maybe we might see a uptick in some of his development based on, what we're hearing about his workouts over the offseason. And he'll be able to start the season and, try to pick on some easier competition. With Dennis Smith Jr., we're not as invested in him. So I don't mind giving him, a slightly more difficult path in order to, locking up that point guard position. So I want Dennis Smith Jr. to be going against the starters. And then I want Frank Nitti to go against some of the backups, the second unit. And Elfrid Payton, to be honest, Elfrid Payton is probably the best facilitator of the 3. But we already know what his ceiling is, right? So I want to see more from DSJ and Frank Nitti to find out what we have and if we should keep him. Elfrid Payton's on a 1-year, $5 million deal. He can just sit there and stew at the bench, and he can come in if we decide that we want to move on from either DSJ or Frank Nitti at the trade deadline. We won't be moving on from Payton because, he's buddy with Scott Perry, so he has that no trade clause. So he'll be here for the entirety of the season. But if we move on from DSJ or Frank Nitti in a big deal, at least we have Elfrid Payton as a serviceable backup point guard. Now, at shooting guard, I got RJ Barrett with 3 T's apparently starting at shooting guard. And then I have Austin Rivers backing him up. And I like the way this sets up as well because it pairs nicely with the way I have point guard set up. So DSJ can be in with RJ Barrett. They can work, with each other. And then when DSJ goes to the bench or RJ goes to the bench, Frank Nitti and Austin Rivers can kind of work with each other. That way, Frank Nitti is still playing with a 2 that has the ability to control the rock. If you have Frank Nitti playing with RJ too much, then you're going to see Frank Nitti be, relied upon too much to handle the ball. So if we have Frank with, Austin Rivers, they can try to, share the workload. So that's why I have Austin Rivers coming off the bench at the 2. And he's more so a scoring point guard. He's really a combo guard. So having him at the 2, I think, will not throw off any of his game. Also, we have Alec Burks backing up those 2. And then we have Immanuel Quickley. Now, I don't know if Immanuel Quickley is going to, I don't think they're going to send him down to the G League, but he's going to have to struggle for some minutes, and he's going to have to come in and outplay Alec Burks. I prefer Quickley getting more minutes than Alec Burks, but, the fact that they went out, signed him, they got to have some kind of plan for him. So I'm assuming he's going to get a little bit more playing time than Quickley. But me personally, I would like to see what we have in Quickley, seeing that we picked him someplace where a lot of people were saying it was somewhat of a reach. So that's shooting guard. And then let's look at small forwards. So small forwards, I'm giving Knox the opportunity to take over that small forward position. He's going to be the starter day one. And he's going to have the opportunity to take the game over if he is able to. As you can see, we don't have any, ball dominant players that are necessarily superstars on our roster, which yeah is obvious. But Kevin Knox will have the ability in this offense to get his buckets. He's already got coaches in his corner that want to see him succeed and are literally personally invested in his success. They were brought in, I think, primarily to help out Kevin Knox. I think Kenny Payne, one of the main reasons he came in was to help out Kevin Knox, seeing that we invested such a high draft pick in him. So I want to give him the opportunity to hold that down. I wanted to see him play a little bit more at the 4, which we probably can see, but now, that's kind of not realistic seeing, the glut we have at power forward right now. So Kevin Knox will start him off the start of the season at the 3. If things change, move him over to the 4, we'll see. And then backing up Knox, I got Iggy. I really want to see what Iggy is capable of. He was killing last year, Summer League. He was killing so good that I drafted and he was doing so well, I drafted and stashed him over in one of my fantasy leagues. So definitely want to see what Iggy is able to do. Also, Reggie Bullock, he's going to be backing up those 3. I'm not sure why they brought him back, but we're paying him, so might as well put him as the third small forward off, or the second small forward off the bench. Now, let's go to power forward, where I'm not necessarily happy with. Boom. Still got Julius Randle starting, which is unfortunate. He's still here. But if he's going to be here, we might as well use him. And, I don't want you guys to get upset, but why are you going to start Randle over Obi? Randle has no long-term future. I understand all of those, all those feelings, all those questions. But the fact that Obi is a rookie, and yes, I know he was, the most draft-ready prospect in the draft, but still, to be able to ease Obi in and allow him to kind of find himself before we just throw him in and give him starter minutes, I guess that'll be the benefit of having Julius Randle. So Julius Randle is going to start for those purposes, and the fact that, we went to Kentucky, so I'm guessing he's got a little bit of favoritism in the front office. So I'm expecting Julius Randle to start, and hopefully he's not doing some of the nonsense he was doing last year. We still don't have a point guard for him to respect their authority. So it's going to fall on Tibbs to coach a lot of that nonsense he was doing last year out of him. So got my fingers crossed. Tibbs is a no-nonsense type of coach. So I'm expecting Julius Randle to improve next season, and if he's on the team, I'm gonna have to root for him. But hopefully he's moved by like the trade deadline. Get something for him, because I don't think he'll be back next year, even with all the Kentucky influence in the front office. So after Obi, we have Omari Spellman, another stretch 4 that can help out as well. So he'll be backing up Obi. He'll be the third power forward off the bench. And not too many surprises here. We still have Mitchell Robinson as our starter. I expect to see big things from Mitchell Robinson. Honestly, if we had a legitimate point guard, my expectations for Mitchell Robinson would be through the roof. But the fact that we still don't have any evidence that he can create his own shot in the low post, and I don't want him really trying to create his own shot off the dribble, his points per game is going to be limited until he can either, make his own shot or get a point guard. So, without necessarily having a great pick and roll partner, I do still see him having a good season. I just think, he won't necessarily reach his potential until 1, we either get a point guard, or 2, he develops some more of his own moves. And then we have Nerlens Noel backing him up, who's a similarly built player. Once Mitchell Robinson hits the bench, we bring in Nerlens Noel. I really shouldn't see a major difference in our defense, how effective our defense is, because Nerlens Noel is a good defender, good rebounder, and he's still fairly young. So if he likes being here, he likes the Kentucky influence that we have in the front office, I wouldn't be upset to him being re-signed if we have another good season next year. And So as I was saying before, there are some players that are going to be sent to the actual G League, and some of these players are on two-way contracts. So you have Jared Harper and Theo Pinson. I think through here we have 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 13, 15. Yep. So we have 15. And then so two players on a two-way contract. And then what else we have there? So these are the G League appointments. So the way it works in the NBA is if you're an NBA player with less than 3 years of experience, you have the team has the ability to assign you to the G League. So I would not be surprised if we see Miles Powell or Jacob Evans assigned to the G League. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Jacob Evans actually cut. The Knicks may decide to cut him just to free up some space. But if they decide to keep him, he's definitely going to the G League, I would assume. I don't see any more space for additional guards, honestly. Like right now, if you just look at the screen, you have 7 guards here, or 7 players that could play guard, and then you have another 2. So that's 9 guards, and it's a 15-man roster. That's a little excessive. And the Exhibit 10 contract, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Now, I don't know if he's going to be here at the start of the season, because the way an Exhibit 10 contract works is the player signs the contract and he is basically a training camp invite. And if he doesn't make the team, the team has the option of sending him to the G League, and the player can decide to stay and go to the G League, or he can decide to opt out and go be signed elsewhere. The problem is, if he decides to opt out and sign elsewhere, he's not going to be allowed to keep his bonus, or he won't receive his bonus, because you have to be, if I'm not mistaken, you have to be either with the G League affiliate for either 30 days or 90 days in order for you to receive your bonus. So I don't know what the Knicks are going to decide to do with MKG. We don't really have the roster space for him. But if he's going to come in during training camp and help, some of these young guys get better in practice, then, I'm here for it. So that's pretty much the roster in its entirety. That's the full 20. So we said this was 15, 17, 19, 20. All right. So I can count. That's always good to know. All right. So let me know what you guys think about my depth chart. If you have, some kind of issue with it, if you feel I didn't necessarily put people in the right place, let me know down in the comments. You can write your full depth chart, or you can let me know who you think is going to start, and then we'll talk about it down there. All right. So once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, and I'm out.
Uh-huh.